I'm Bob Brill. He's Erik Kramer. Welcome to Kramer and Brill, an NFL podcast and videocast. Each week, we take a look at what's going on in the NFL. And during the season, we analyze your fantasy picks. Now, this week, we're looking at the NFL draft and how it went for your favorite NFL teams. My esteemed colleague, former NFL quarterback Erik Kramer, provides his valuable insights to this process, and we're going to get into it today. Now, you can join us each week by finding the podcast wherever you get your shows. And for the videocast, just check out my Bob Brill YouTube channel. The easiest way is to go directly to our website. That's kramerandbrill.com. You'll find all the links right there on the homepage, plus past shows. You can check that out too. So let's get right to it. I think the biggest surprise of the draft, and you see me smiling, was Kenny Pickett falling to number 20 for Pittsburgh. And for Malik Willis, projected to go possibly in the first 40 picks, falling to the third round in Tennessee.
Did this feel a little bit like Christmas in April?
Yeah,
it had to.
It really did. It really did.
Well, so for me, and I think this went really well because there was only one quarterback, in my opinion, that was worthy of a first-round selection. That was Kenny Pickett. And to me, he's the right combination of fluidity in all the things that he does, which is reading coverages well and anticipating throws and being accurate and movement inside and outside of the pocket. There's no wasted anything. It just moves the right way. And then there's all the rest of the stuff like his size and speed and arm strength and touch on throws. And he's good. He's just really good. And I think and to the team where he went, to the Steelers, he's the right fit for them. I mean, he's perfect.
Yeah, really was.
Been practicing in the same building, and nobody has to go anywhere. So everything to me that Kenny Pickett is, Malik Willis isn't yet. And to me, he's got a long way to go. And this is the one trait that Malik Willis does need to possess, and we don't know that he does just yet, and that's his determination and work ethic, the ability to just on yourself and with the system, just hop on the bus and get to work and get better each day. And to me, he's in the perfect situation because he's got Ryan Tannehill, who himself has been through many ups and downs. Recently, back in Miami, he had to get revived by going to Tennessee. He's got them with his own play deep into the playoffs. Then last year, he fell short at a crucial time when he needed to deliver and didn't. And so I think he's in the perfect scenario because, to me, I've been impressed for the majority of the ride with Ryan Tannehill. I've been impressed. And I think Malik Willis is going to learn from a guy who knows how to go about this business. Just by being in the same room and watching what he does, hopefully Malik is curious enough and determined enough that he just gets better by showing up every day in the way he humbly goes about doing what he does.
And you've always been a big Tannehill supporter, and I see exactly what you're saying here. And I think you're right because I think I think Malik Willis coming from Liberty, which is a small school, not to put down small schools, but the competition isn't what the SEC or some of the other conferences, the Pac-12C. As far as the defensive players and things like that. So I think he is in the perfect situation. And if he sticks by it and learns from it, I think in a couple of years, he's there. I got to say, when New Orleans traded for number 19, I thought for sure they were going to take Pickett and the Steelers were out. But I was over the moon when they didn't. And I think it was a perfect fit too. And even GM Colbert and Coach Tomlin were surprised he was still there when I saw the news conference afterwards. And I know Tomlin was asked about one of the things he would say about Kenny Pickett, and he said, "I think I want him to finish the slide." I think that one slide, fake slide he did where he ran for a touchdown. So I think it was the last game of the regular season. When that happened, I think that thing went viral, and I think he's gonna live with that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, but I think that's just that's what he does. He's an instinctive, impromptu, as I see it, I'll do it type of guy. And I think that's great. That's typically what good players do. They figure out a way to do something and do it well. And so I think, going back to New Orleans, as you were getting nervous there that they were moving up, right. I think this was the first I'd say, public display of affection this offseason the Saints have made in Jameis Winston's direction. I could tell they liked him last year, and then he got hurt. And to me, he looked like he was making better decisions. So I think he's earned what they're now putting him in place to do. And so I don't know Mike Tomlin, but I do know Kevin Colbert. As you know, he was the personnel director with the Lions when I was there. And to me, he was, along with the people that worked with him in that department, he was responsible. And that personnel department was hugely responsible for the talent on that team. In fact, singularly, I think. And so he did the same thing with Pittsburgh. And I'm sure he's worked well with Mike Tomlin in getting people from far and wide, and they've won a couple Super Bowls as a result, or at least Colbert's been there for 2 of them. And so anyway, I think, admittedly, I was wrong. I thought Carolina would be the first to snag Kenny Pickett and slide back to do it. And they could have. They just had, other thoughts in mind, and that's fine. But I think the beneficiary of that is you and the Steelers and the entire Steeler Nation.
We're sad to see Colbert go because this was his last draft. He's retiring, and you going back and have a connection with him. I think there's a lot. He's so highly respected. It's sad to see him go, but it's when it's time, it's time.
And he's from Pittsburgh, so it worked out.
Another shocker for me was Buffalo. We talked about them possibly taking James Cook or Breece Hall in the first round because they needed a running back. That's the one piece they're missing. It was a shocker they didn't take him in the first round, but then they got their running back. They got James Cook, who's Delvin Cook's brother, later on pick number 63. So I guess it shows, the importance of the elevation of wide receivers in the last 10 years and then less of an emphasis on running backs. I mean, Seattle did take Kenny Walker from Michigan at number 41. He was one of the top 3 we talked about last time. Breece Hall went to the Jets, and the Iowa State running back went 36th overall. So they did go in the first 2 rounds. They didn't wait long enough. But I was still surprised that not one of them went in that first round.
Well, just, it depends on who's who. Like if Barry Sanders was coming out this year, he would have gone in the first round, guaranteed. Right. If Bo Jackson, same thing. If Walter Payton, same thing. And so, but like you said, whether it was Breece Hall or Cook, they identified who they wanted that fit what they need. And we all see what they need. And, this pick obviously makes sense. And to me, and I think to you, puts them in the pole position in terms of AFC as to who is in that first spot that we're all thinking about who might go to the Super Bowl. In my opinion, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills.
Well, Matt Corral went to the Panthers, which mentioned you mentioned the Panthers looking for a quarterback. They did pick up 94. So it's that's 4th round, somewhere in there, 3rd round, late
third round, I think. Yeah.
So, but looking over, which team do you feel had the best draft as far as helping themselves right now, this year in 2022-23?
The team that jumps out right away is the Jets. They got their quarterback last year. And then you look at their top 4 picks. They got Sauce Gardner, who's obviously or arguably the best corner in this draft. They got Garrett Wilson, another receiver who's obviously probably could be argued as the best receiver in this class. They've got Jermaine Johnson, who fell. They traded up for, but were surprisingly even there to draft as an edge rusher. And then they got Breece Hall as well, another great running back. So I think just with those first 4 picks alone, it's tough for me to see anyone else that matches up that way. Maybe the Eagles, because of what they did to get A.J. Brown. Harry Roseman saw these receivers just jumping off the board, and so he makes all in one move to secure A.J. Brown and the contract at the same time. And so now you've got Jalen Hurts, who is a rising quarterback, still playing on his rookie contract, and they too also made some great moves.
How about the best draft for the future? The draft to rebuild, the guys that really needed to retool and think, 3-4 years down the road.
That's a great one. And I think when you look at it today, Nobody thinks this way, but for me, it's the Bears, because they go in with 6 picks. Not really, they don't have a first round pick, and they get basically 2 day one starting, a cornerback and a safety. Big upgrade in the secondary, which was shaky. Then they obviously they moved up the year before to get Justin Fields, but then they added depth with the offensive line. They got a guy named Kramer to play center out of Illinois, and they get
Kramer with a K, by the way.
It is Kramer with a K, and Doug, I think, is his first name. But anyway, so then they get the Velus Jones guy from Tennessee that people are kind of, well, did they have the luxury to draft that guy? Yeah, because he's an impact returner on day one. He could turn into a Deebo Samuel. He's got blazing speed. He's a sturdy guy. He's exactly what I thought they needed. Some other people didn't think it because he's not really like the receiver that everybody identified for them to get. So what? They love him, and that's all that matters. And then to top it off, they picked up a punter from NC State. So
from where? From where? Where did they pick up the punter?
A fellow Wolfpacker.
NC State. Oh, okay. NC State. I didn't throw the question at, but I was going to ask you about the picks at NC State. We'll get to that later. The Rams.
Real quick, the other thing is that I think you're going to have to look at this draft after next year's draft and a couple years after that even, to see how these pieces all kind of fit, because there's no big splash, we had to have that guy.
Yeah.
But I think you've got great depth. You've got some good young players on this team already that I think this is a team that's they're not going to explode this year, I don't think. But I think next year and the year after and so on, I think you'll see this draft pay off in that way.
Well, the Rams didn't have a pick in the first round due to all the trades they made, and they got their Super Bowl. So, justify that. No one can knock that. So did the Rams step up and improve themselves? I mean, they lost some players here, in the offseason, and very few draft picks as far as where, early draft picks. Did they improve themselves?
Well, let's start with their, let's see, the thing that didn't have anything to do with them picking anybody, which was the on-camera responses of both Sean McVay and Les Snead to Bill Belichick and the Patriots picking UT Chattanooga offensive guard Cole Strange, where they both were like, what? And laughing, in fact, was Sean McVay, who just got humbled a couple years earlier in the Super Bowl by Belichick. And then you got Les Snead, who's a bigger head scratcher, Cole Strange or Jared Goff, moving up 14 spots to get Jared Goff, where they just jettisoned. Yeah. And so, in the response, I think, from Les Snead, who damn near got fired himself, was, welcome to the draft, Chattanooga. Really? Well, guess who's not going to forget those responses?
Yeah.
Bill Belichick.
Yep. 5 years ago.
I think the draft, to go to the draft of the Rams, I think, they're just, there's not a lot of vacant spots there. So they added, I think, good depth. As you know, Carnell Lake's son, the one out of UCLA, right. If he's anything like his dad, who was a great player, right. Instinctive, hard hitter, ball hawk, like a linebacker. Yeah. And he's a hybrid type. And if that's who his son is, then that's going to be an impact player. The guy they picked up, Darian Kendrick from Georgia, anybody on that defense was good. And so I think he's going to add depth there as well. And, they picked up the running back from Notre Dame. And so the Rams, as good as they were last year, I think in this draft got better. Not a big splashy name, nobody in there that kind of jumps out at you. But had they gone and moved up or moved down, who are they going to get that's going to have an impact on that team anyway?
Plus, as you mentioned earlier, they did pick up Allen Robinson in the offseason.
Correct.
If they lose Odell, they lose Odell. But they've got Allen Robinson teamed with Cooper Kupp. I mean, that's a pretty good pair of wide receivers.
Right. And is it J.C. Jackson they got at corner also?
Let me see.
The Patriots?
Trying to think. I think you might be right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, for what could have happened with them, and what didn't happen, I think they turned out with a pretty decent draft. I really do. Now, a couple of other notes. Steelers declined a fifth-year option on former top draft pick Devin Bush. The Raiders did the same with running back Josh Jacobs. And then DeAndre Hopkins gets suspended for 6 games for performance-enhancing drugs. Your thoughts?
Well, that 5th-year option, right? That's kind of now become the telltale sign of what the team thinks of you.
Yeah.
And as good as Josh Jacobs has been, he's had some injuries, and which has hampered, I think, his impact. And then you've got the same with Devin Bush, along with some inconsistent play coming back from that torn ACL. DeAndre Hopkins, think about this. He's going to pay the consequence of a 6-game suspension. But them getting Hollywood Brown after that 6-game suspension and he comes back, yes, he's going to be in his 10th year now, but he's still one of the best receivers in the game.
Yeah.
And so I think, okay, you're out for 6 games and you shouldn't have done what you did. You kind of alluded to the fact that I don't know how this happened. Well, you ingested something you shouldn't have. That's how it happened. And so
that always cracks me up. It really does.
Yeah, there's nobody you have to search with your team to figure out how this happened. Yeah. You go check the bottle that you took. That was illegal, and you know it. So the point is, when they get him back for that second half of the season where they crumbled last year, I think they're going to be in prime position this year.
All right. Well, that'll do it for another edition of Kramer and Brill. Don't forget to join us next time, wherever you get your shows and on my Bob Brill YouTube channel. For my colleague, Erik Kramer, and myself, we'll see you next time.